Have you ever felt like you were trapped inside a storm that no one else could see? The world outside might look calm, but inside your chest, it's chaos waves crashing, lightning striking, and the air so heavy you can barely breathe. That tight pressure pressing down on your ribs those nights where the ceiling becomes your silent enemy because you can't sleep, and those endless what-if thoughts that spiral out of control. Maybe someone well-meaning looked at you and said, "Don't worry. Just think positive." Or maybe they handed you a miracle tea, a trendy breathing app, or some secret magic cure for anxiety and told you, "This will fix everything by tomorrow." But tell me honestly, how many times have those quick fixes actually worked for you? And more importantly, how many times have they made you feel worse because when they didn't work, you thought, "What's wrong with me?" Here's the truth that almost no one says out loud. Some of the most popular cures for anxiety are not only misleading, they can make the problem even bigger. And I get it, because when you're in that storm, you'll reach for anything that promises calm. You'll try anything to get out, even if it's just for a moment. But the reality is, anxiety is not a light switch you can turn off. It's not a weed you just yank out and it's gone forever. It's more like a wild garden. You can't just destroy it, you have to understand it, tend to it, and slowly guide it into balance. And I know the world we live in is loud. Social media screams at you with 5 tricks to cure anxiety instantly. Or the herb doctors don't want you to know about. But you're not here for clickbait. You're here because you want truth. You want something that will actually help you feel grounded in it, just for an hour, but for life. So today, we're going to go deeper. We're going to break down the myths that keep people stuck in by own so you can stop chasing empty promises and start building a path toward real, lasting peace of mind. And I'm not just here to give you information, I'm here to give you perspective. A way to see anxiety, not as an enemy to destroy, but as a signal teacher that can help you grow stronger, more self-aware, and more present in your life. Because think about it, what if anxiety isn't just something to eliminate? What if instead it's something you can learn to live with, manage, and even grow from? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you might hear something that changes the way you look at your anxiety forever. And when you do, you'll realize that peace isn't found in the absence of the storm, it's found in learning how to stand calm in the middle of it. Pause, gentle music begins to rise. Hopeful tone sets in. This is where your real journey begins. 1. Just stop thinking about it. Let me ask you something. How many times have you heard this advice? Just stop thinking about it. It sounds so simple, right? Like you could just flip a switch in your brain and boom, problem solved. No more anxiety, no more overthinking, no more restless nights. But here's the thing, your brain doesn't work like a light switch. The harder you try to force yourself not to think about something, the louder those thoughts become. It's like telling a child, "Don't touch that button." Suddenly, that's the only button they want to press. Let's try something right now. For the next 5 seconds, I want you not to think about a pink elephant. Ready, go. And yet there it is. You're picturing a pink elephant. You can't help it, right? That's exactly how the mind works. When we push a thought away with force, we're actually feeding it energy. We're telling our brain, "This is important. Keep checking on it," and that's why it keeps coming back, sometimes even stronger than before. So here's the real secret. It's not about stopping the thought. It's about changing your relationship with it. Instead of wrestling with it, what if you just noticed it? What if you allowed it to pass by, the same way you'd watch clouds drift across the sky? That's the essence of mindfulness, not fighting the thought, not labeling it as good or bad, just seeing it for what it is, a temporary visitor in your mind. Imagine you're sitting by a busy road. Cars are zooming by. Each car is a thought, some fast, some slow, some noisy, some quiet. You don't have to chase every car. You don't have to stop traffic. You can just sit there and watch them go by. And here's the empowering part: when you do that, you're training your brain to see that a thought is just a thought. It doesn't have to control your emotions or dictate your actions. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, "But if I don't push it away, won't it get worse?" And I get that fear, it's natural. But in my own experience, and in the stories of so many people I've worked with, the opposite is true. When you stop resisting, the thought often loses its power. Think about it: if someone keeps knocking on your door and you refuse to open, they might keep knocking louder. But if you open the door, look them in the eye, and say, "I see you," they usually move on. That's what acceptance feels like. It's not giving up, it's stepping out of the fight. It's choosing peace over constant mental warfare. And here's something I've learned the hard way. You can't always control what thoughts show up in your mind, but you can control how much attention you give them. That's your power. So next time someone tells you, just stop thinking about it, I hope you smile gently and think, no, I'm not going to stop thinking about it. I'm going to stop fighting with it. Because sometimes the way out is not to push harder, but to let go. 2. Anxiety means you're weak. Let's talk about one of the most damaging lies we've ever been told about anxiety. The lie that says, if you have anxiety, you're weak. Have you ever heard that before? Maybe not directly, but you felt it, haven't you? The way people look at you when you admit you're struggling. The silent judgment. The unspoken message, why can't you just handle it? But here's the truth, anxiety is not weakness. In fact, it's the opposite. Anxiety is part of the human survival system. It's your built-in alarm designed by nature to protect you. Think about it. Thousands of years ago, when danger was around the corner, this alarm is what kept our ancestors alive. Your heart races? That's your body preparing to run or fight. Your mind scans for every possible threat. That's your system making sure you're ready for anything. The problem is, in the modern world, that alarm can get too sensitive. It starts going off even when there's no real danger, when it's just a meeting at work, a text you haven't answered, or a memory that suddenly pops into your mind. And yet, people confuse having that alarm with being weak. Let me tell you something, some of the strongest people you know may be living with anxiety every single day. Strength isn't about having zero fear. Strength is about standing in the middle of fear and still taking the next step. Think of the firefighter who runs into a burning building, heart pounding, or the single parent who wakes up every morning, exhausted, but still shows up for their kids. Do you think they're fearless? No. They feel the fear and they keep going anyway. That's strength. And that's exactly what people with anxiety practice every day. I'll be honest with you, we've had days when my anxiety made me want to hide from the world. But I showed up anyway. I've seen friends go through panic attacks and still lead a meeting, still raise their families, still chase their dreams. And here's the thing, if you've ever done something while anxious, you've done it the hard way. And doing something the hard way, that's not weakness. That's courage. So the next time someone tries to tell you that your anxiety makes you fragile, remember this, your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do, it's just working a little overtime. And the fact that you're still living your life, still showing up, still trying, that's proof of your resilience. Don't mistake sensitivity for weakness. Sensitivity means you notice more, you feel more, and yes, sometimes you fear more. But it also means you have a deeper capacity for empathy, for connection, for understanding what others are going through. In a world that's desperate for more compassion, that's not a flaw, it's a gift. So here's my challenge to you. Stop wearing the label weak like a weight on your shoulders. Start seeing your anxiety for what it truly is, evidence that you're human, alive, and courageous enough to face life, even when it scares you. Because strength isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward, one step at a time, in spite of it. 3. One pill or herb will fix everything. Let's be real, when anxiety hits hard, you'd give anything for it to just stop. And that's why it's so tempting when someone says, here, take this. It's all you need. This one pill, this one tea, this one magical herb, it will erase your anxiety forever. Sounds amazing, right? One simple solution. No more sleepless nights, no more heart racing, no more endless overthinking. But here's the problem, anxiety doesn't work like that. It's not a single switch you flip. It's more like a web made up of your brain chemistry, your habits, your environment, your past experiences, even the way you eat and sleep. I'm not here to bash medication or herbal remedies. They can both play an important role. Sometimes, they're exactly what someone needs to get to a more stable place. But the trap is thinking there's one magic cure that works for everyone, every time. Have you noticed how, when you put all your hope into just one thing and it doesn't work the way you expect, you end up feeling even more hopeless? You start thinking, if this didn't work, maybe nothing will. That's why I want to tell you something important. True healing is rarely just one thing. For some people, it's therapy, learning how to understand their thoughts and change the patterns that fuel anxiety. For others, it's adjusting lifestyle habits, moving their body more, getting better sleep, nourishing themselves with real food, setting boundaries in their relationships. For many, it's a combination, maybe medication or natural remedies, but also mental training, mindfulness, breathing techniques, journaling, and small daily choices that create long-term change. Think of it like building a house. You wouldn't try to build the whole thing with just one tool. You need a hammer, a saw, a level, nails, wood, each piece working together to create something strong and lasting. Anxiety is the same way. One pill, one tea, one supplement can be a tool, but it's not the whole toolbox. I've met people who swore by their medication, and others who swore by meditation. And here's the truth. They're both right for themselves. The key is finding the unique combination that works for you. And that's why you need to be careful when someone promises you a cure-all. If they're selling it like, it's the one thing everyone's been missing, chances are they're selling hope in a bottle, not reality. The real path to peace often takes time. It's about stacking small, consistent habits. It's about giving yourself grace when you slip, and patience when progress feels slow. If you've been searching for that one miracle fix, I get it. But maybe it's time to stop searching for the one and start building the many. Because lasting change, it's not about finding the magic pill. It's about creating a life where your mind and body feel safe enough that you don't need a magic pill at all. 4. Avoid everything that makes you anxious. On the surface, this one actually sounds reasonable. You feel anxious around crowds. Don't go to crowded places. You feel nervous before public speaking? Avoid speaking in public. You panic in certain situations? Just stay away from them. It makes sense, right? At least in the short term. But here's the truth: no one tells you this strategy might feel safe now, but in the long run, it can actually make your anxiety worse. Why? Because every time you avoid something that makes you anxious, you're teaching your brain one powerful lesson. This thing is dangerous. I can't handle it. And your brain believes you. That's how fear grows, not by confronting danger, but by confirming to yourself, again and again, that you can't face it. Think of it like a muscle. If you never use it, it gets weaker. The same goes for your courage muscle. Every time you avoid, it shrinks. Every time you step forward, even just a little, it gets stronger. I've seen this happen countless times. Simeon avoids driving after one panic attack on the road, and soon they can't drive at all. Someone avoids social events because of one bad interaction, and months later, they feel isolated and disconnected. The path to freedom isn't found in avoiding your trigger sets and slowly, gently, safely approaching them. This doesn't mean throwing yourself into your biggest fear all at once. That's like trying to lift 100 pounds on your first day. At the gym, you'll hurt yourself. Instead, think of it as fear exposure training. Take one small step toward the thing that scares you, then another. Give your nervous system a chance to learn. Hey, I survived this. I handled it. Maybe it's not as dangerous as I thought. Over time, those steps add up. I'll give you an example. I used to panic every time I had to speak in front of a group. My heart would race, my hands would shake, and my mind would go blank. For a while, I avoided it completely. But every time I turned down an opportunity, my anxiety got stronger because I was proving my fear right. So I started small. I spoke up in a meeting with just 3 people. Then I led a short discussion with 5. Eventually, I worked my way up to giving talks in front of hundreds. And now, my anxiety hasn't disappeared entirely, but it no longer controls me. That's what gradual exposure does. It rewires your brain. It teaches your body that you can be in uncomfortable situations and still be safe. And here's the most important part: every time you choose to face what scares you, you're not just reducing your anxiety, you're building your confidence. You're telling yourself, I'm capable. I'm stronger than I thought. So the next time you feel the urge to avoid something because of anxiety, ask yourself this: is avoiding this making my world bigger or smaller? If it's making your world smaller, maybe it's time to take one small, brave step in the opposite direction. Because freedom doesn't come from running away from fear. It comes from proving over that fear doesn't get to run your life. 5. Just think positive. Let's talk about one of the most common pieces of advice people give when you're feeling anxious. Just think positive. On the surface, it sounds good. It sounds simple. Positive thinking can be helpful. It can shift your focus, lift your mood, and give you hope. But here's the truth: it's not a magic wand. If you're drowning in the ocean, telling yourself, just swim, is not enough. You need to know how to swim. You need the strength to keep going. And sometimes you need a life raft. That's the problem with just think positive as a blanket solution. It skips over the reality of what you're going through. It can even make you feel worse, because when the positive thoughts don't magically make your anxiety disappear, you start thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be positive like everyone says? The truth is, what works better than blind positivity is balanced thinking. Balanced thinking means you acknowledge the difficulty, but you also recognize your ability to face it. Instead of forcing yourself to say, everything is fine, when it's clearly not, you might say, this is hard, but I am capable of moving through it. See the difference? One ignores your reality. The other embraces it and still gives you power. I've seen this in my own life. There were times I tried to plaster over my anxiety with forced positivity. I'd repeat affirmations I didn't believe, smile when I didn't feel like smiling, and pretend I was okay. On the outside, I looked fine. But inside, I was still struggling. It wasn't until I allowed myself to be honest, yes, I'm anxious right now. Yes, this is uncomfortable, but I can handle it, that I started to feel real progress. Balanced thinking gives you permission to be human, to feel what you feel. And from that place of honesty, you can take real action to move forward. Imagine a mountain climber halfway up a steep cliff. Blind positivity is saying, there's no mountain here. Balanced thinking is saying, yes, this is a steep climb. Yes, my muscles are burning. But I've trained for this, and I can take one more step. Which one do you think is more likely to get you to the top? And here's the beautiful part: when you practice balanced thinking, you're actually building resilience. You're proving to yourself that you can hold to truths at the same time. This is difficult. I can handle it. That's not weakness. That's strength in its purest form. So the next time someone tells you, just think positive, I want you to remember this: you don't have to deny your fear to be strong. You don't have to pretend it's not there. You can acknowledge the storm and still believe in your ability to stand in the middle of it. Because real strength doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from knowing that even when things aren't fine, you still are. 6. You have to eliminate anxiety completely. One of the biggest misconceptions about anxiety is this: I have to get rid of it completely. We think the ultimate goal is to have zero anxiety. None at all. But here's the truth most people don't realize: a little bit of anxiety is actually healthy. It's what keeps you alert when you're driving at night. It's what motivates you to prepare for that important presentation. It's what makes you double-check your work before hitting send on a critical email. Anxiety, in small doses, is like a guardrail. It keeps you from drifting too far off the road. Without it, you might take unnecessary risks or miss important details. The real goal isn't to erase anxiety, it's to keep it at a level you can control. Think of it like volume on a stereo. You don't want it blasting so loud that it drowns out everything else in your life. But you also don't need to turn it down to zero. You just want it at the right volume, present enough to be useful, quiet enough to give you peace. The problem is, when we obsess over getting rid of anxiety completely, we can end up chasing an impossible standard. And when we inevitably feel anxious again, we think, I failed. I'm back to square one. But that's not true at all. You can live a full, meaningful, joyful life even if anxiety still visits you from time to time. I'll be honest, there are still moments when anxiety shows up in my life. Sometimes it's before a big speaking event. Sometimes it's when I'm stepping into the unknown. The difference now is it doesn't run the show anymore. I acknowledge it. I listen to what it's trying to tell me. And then I decide if it's worth acting on or if it's just background noise I can let fade away. Imagine anxiety as a passenger in your car. It can ride along, but it doesn't get to touch the steering wheel. You're the driver. You choose the route. And here's something powerful to remember: the absence of anxiety is not the measure of a good life. The measure is how much you live, love, and grow when anxiety is in the room. So instead of asking, how can I get rid of this forever? Try asking, how can I keep this at a level where I'm still in control? That shift in mindset changes everything. Because you don't have to be fearless to live fully, you just have to be free enough to live on your terms. 7. If you can't beat anxiety, you'll be stuck forever. This last myth, it's the one that breaks my heart the most. The idea that, if I can't completely beat my anxiety, I'm stuck with it forever. I'll never get better. Do you know what that belief does? It steals hope. It makes people give up before they've even had a chance to change. And that, more than the anxiety itself, is what traps them. But here's what I need you to know: anxiety can change. You can change. Your brain is not made of stone, it's alive, adaptable, constantly rewiring itself in response to what you do, what you think, and what you experience. Scientists call it neuroplasticity. I call it proof that you are never truly stuck. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen people go from panic attacks every single week to months of steady calm. Not because they found a magic cure, but because they committed to small, consistent habits every day. Deep breathing when their chest felt tight. Journaling their thoughts instead of letting them spin endlessly in their head. Moving their body, walking, stretching, exercising. Best motion changes emotion. Having real, open conversations with a friend or a therapist instead of bottling everything up. None of these changes happened overnight. But over weeks, months, and years, those small steps built something incredible: peace. And here's the truth: you are not broken forever. There is no finish line where someone stamps you with defective and says you can't heal. Will anxiety disappear completely for everyone? No. But can it become smaller, lighter, and less powerful? Absolutely. Imagine a storm that used to knock you down every time it came. Now, through practice and persistence, it's just a bit of rain. You notice it, you feel it, but you can still keep walking. That's what's possible. So if you've been telling yourself, "This is just who I am, I'll always be this way," I want you to pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what if this is not the end of my story? What if this is just the chapter I'm in right now? The future is unwritten. And every day, with every choice, you are writing it. You have the power to make that next chapter one of strength, resilience, and freedom. You might not be able to flip a switch and erase anxiety forever, but you can absolutely build a life where anxiety is just a side character, not the main one. And that's not being stuck, that's winning. Reflection, personal lesson, and call to action. Let's take a step back for a moment and remember everything we've talked about today. Anxiety is not weakness. It's not a flaw in your character. And it's definitely not something that disappears with the snap of your fingers. Anxiety is a signal, a messenger, a teacher. Sometimes it whispers, "Slow down." Other times it tells you, "You're stepping into something important, something that matters." I know this, not just because I've read the research, but because I've lived it. I've had my own journey with anxiety, days where my mind refused to rest, the nights where I lay awake wondering if I'd ever feel normal again. And here's the truth: I discovered the answer didn't come in the form of a miracle cure. It didn't arrive in one big, dramatic moment. It came quietly, through small choices I made every single day. Choosing to sit with my discomfort instead of running from it. Choosing to breathe deeply when my chest felt tight. Choosing to remind myself, this feeling is temporary. I've been here before, and I made it through. These little choices, repeated again and again, began to change everything. Not overnight, but over time. And if there's just one thing I want you to carry from this video, it's this: you can live with anxiety without letting it control you. Don't let the myths fool you into chasing perfection, or worse, into believing that you're broken beyond repair. Instead, learn to understand your own mind. Take small actions every day that remind you you're in charge. Build a life so full of meaning, connection, and growth that anxiety has less and less room to take over. And please, if this message spoke to you today, share it with someone else who might need it. Because you never know, the truth you pass along, the little piece of hope you share, could be the exact thing that changes someone's life. Remember, you don't have to be fearless to move forward. You don't have to eliminate every ounce of anxiety to start living fully. You only have to take one more step than your fear. And if you can do that, over and over again, you'll find your way forward. I'll see you in the next video. Stay grounded, keep growing, and always choose the path that leads you toward peace.